9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Well, welcome, everyone.
Welcome to Launch with Kim.
Dr. Newt, we thank you for tuning in today.
Yes.
On this beautiful Saturday. Well, it's beautiful here where we are. We're not exactly sure where you may be, but it's a wonderful day. It's about 60 degrees, I guess, and nice and sunny outside. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you. We're hoping everyone's having a fantastic day.
Yes. And beautiful could also mean that it's just the fact that you have the opportunity to see another day.
Yeah.
You know?
That is so true. So true.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah. So listen, you guys, we've been on this leadership Layers for Leadership series that we have been just kind of trying to run through with everyone. So we're going to continue on that series. Just like week 5, I believe we are.
I don't know why I thought it was week 4, but I could be a week off.
So we going to do a real quick review, and then today's a little more academic, if you will, than others. We want to set some things up for other parts of the series, but our series is called Layers of Leadership, as you said. And in the first week, we kind of defined leadership for you. So in defining leadership, we said that every leader is pretty much driven by anger or some type of frustration
or need,
because they have a need to solve a thing or address a thing. And in doing so, they're going to be courageous about it. They'll stand where no one else stands. They're going to have a mindset where they want to train or have a successor so that whatever they start continues after they're gone. And their focus is always going to be on their why. Not necessarily what it takes or how it's going to happen. It's going to be on their why. And it's kind of crazy because the greatest leaders that you ever read about did not have the resources to accomplish the things that they did, but they had a why. So their how and their what was not necessarily, their strength. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get right there because I got a lot of goals and aspirations, right?
Yeah.
Then we talked about the kingdom view of leadership versus the secular view of leadership, where we showed you in Genesis how we're all designed and formed to be leaders. That's why God said, listen, be fruitful, multiply, replenish, and subdue. As he said, listen, if he's telling us to be fruitful, that means that he's already built us with seeds, because you can't be fruitful without having seeds. So we're all leaders over some area of giftedness or the seeds that we're formed with. So we're charged to be fruitful and to go out and sow those seeds that we have, and that fruit is what draws folks to our area of giftedness.
Right.
Then that first week we gave the first 3 C's. We gave you 9 C's.
Loves giving those little tidbits in letter form.
So those first 3 C's we gave you the first week were clarity, courage, and character. And you can go back and watch and learn a little bit more about them. In week 2, though, we said this is an introduction to you.
Yeah.
Leadership is always going to be an introduction to yourself. And we use what we call purpose, fruit, follower cycle. We all have a purpose. And because you have a purpose that you're meant to solve a problem, if you're meant to solve a problem, then that means you're going to be a target. And you don't have to have perfection to start, just a willing mind to do so.
Right.
Once you do that, you perfect your fruit. Your fruit is what draws folks to you. We cautioned you not to offer your fruit before it is matured, because if it's not ripe, it can get someone sick. Or if it's too ripe, then it can actually hurt someone because it's making them do something out of time. So we talked about that in week 2. We said that in that leadership, as we learn to be leadership, is always a journey of self-discovery. So whether you're just developing your own self-discipline, if you will, or self-reliance as a leader for what you have over yourself, or whether there's people following you,
right,
it's going to draw on you,
right,
and you're going to learn some things about yourself. Whenever you're making decisions for yourself or for someone else, you're going to learn something about yourself,
right,
and you have to be willing to allow those things that you learn to fall off of you.
Yeah,
meaning this, allowing them to hit the ground, if you will, and have the freedom to take another form. And I cautioned you because the Bible says, listen, behold, when every man be in Christ, he is a new creature, not another creature. Behold, all things become new, old things are passed away, all things become new, right? So what's happening is that who you are hasn't changed.
Right.
Your motive, your direction, your reason for using the things that are in you is what switches. Now you're kingdom based, right? So you still have the same skills. You still have the same, abilities. You still have the same competency that you were formed with. You're just now pointing it with a different intention. So in that leadership journey, if you are, I'm how to say it, I don't know the right word. My thinking can be all over the place sometimes. I'm visionary. I'm pulling pieces together all the time. So that is now, I don't want to depress that.
Right.
I want to learn how to use that in the leadership setting. So it's an inside job, is what I'm trying to say to you, and be cognizant of yourself, and don't limit yourself, if you will. So
I like that inside job, because
Yes.
it means that you've got to check you
right,
inside
right.
your heart and your mind, and yeah, it's definitely an inside job. So good.
So we talked then, they said, once that you develop that inside job, once you understand that inside job is happening, you're willing to allow things to continually fall off you and to change form so that you use them intentionally for another reason, then your journey of external leadership begins. At that point, you're ready to lead others.
Yeah.
And you're ready to make your purpose fruitful.
Right.
So it's not just about you developing you, it's about you taking what you have, putting it in a place so it can develop others. It can influence and impact others. But you have to not realize, but make sure that you're taking the fruit that you have and giving it a purpose. So when you go into external leadership, you're offering what you have so you can be fruitful, but what you have has a purpose. Understand what that purpose is so you can operate in that vein more intentionally, not just for you, but for the people that you're serving.
Right.
Then we went into week 3. We said, listen, this week we want to show you how to use leadership so you can have rest in your land. And we use Joshua and all of Joshua's conquest. But Joshua's leadership started out with God letting Joshua know about his one thing. He was like, listen, we've taken us 40 years to get here. You're going to take us across the river into the promised land quickly. So Joshua's one thing was a finisher. So you need to find your one thing, right? So we talked about also the next 3 C's, C4, 5, and 6, competence, communication, and center point. So as far as competence was concerned, we said God will always grow you in and never call you outside of your area of competence. Now, that means that you still have to build a skill set.
Right.
Skill set and competence is 2 different things. I could be competent in a spot because I'm formed to do that thing.
Right.
But if I never exercise the skills, my competency will go to waste. It will all just be in my head. Right. So I still have to build a skill set.
Right.
So even though you're competent in the area, you may have some uncomfortable, times as you're learning how to work or build that skill, that gift, or whatever it is. Right. So God's always going to grow you in that area. And then what we went on and we said, listen, we get mixed up sometimes because we think that just because we're talented in the area, we're supposed to operate in that area.
Right.
Right. That's not always necessarily the case.
Right.
Now, your talent in an area, you're probably going to use that talent somehow because it's what you can do, right? And then when we're passionate about things, we really like a thing.
Right.
We think, oh, that's it for me. I really like that. That's not necessarily the case either. Right. So you got to align talents and gifts and passions. You got to align all these things together because your passion is just what you want to do.
Yeah.
You got to find your purpose because your purpose is what you're supposed to do. And what does it have to do with passion? Because passion and people can pull you off the path of your purpose. So that means as far as competency is concerned, you have to have some discipline. There has to be some self-discipline if you're going to become competent in any area.
Right.
There has to be some restraint because people and passions and talents can pull you off the path of where you're supposed to be, that vein that you're supposed to be operating in, right? Remember this saying, the old Chinese proverb, he who tries to do everything gets nothing done, right? Then we talked about communication, and we said the communication is a very important thing. It's just transfer of information back and forth, right? But as a leader, communication happens in 3 ways. You're either casting a vision, casting a view right there, or you're confronting something so you can keep things aligned and working the way they should be, or you're cheering on either yourself or those around you. And the quality of your ability to cast your vision and the skill that you have in your communication, I'm going to say bag of tricks, is very important. That really matters because what you say is not always what people hear.
Right.
Right. So that's a real big one. So as far as confronting, you've got to always understand you're going to come face to face with some stuff, and everything's not always going to be comfortable. You're going to come face to face with some great things that you need to confront and praise, right? But you're going to come face to face with some things that are enjoyable to speak about, right? So here's what you're going to want to do is confronting them in not a mean or a belittling way.
Right.
You're confronting them so that everyone can stay focused on the vision, the work that's at hand, right? So I have a saying here that I put on the screen. One of the things that we have to learn how to confront first is ourselves.
Yeah.
So I don't care whether you're just leading yourselves or you're leading 20,000 people. You have to confront you because it's your values, your character, your courage that's in the front. You know, it's your level of competency that's on line. So you have to be able to confront yourself. And if you don't, then you'll find yourself in that endless journey in the wilderness, cycling around because you refuse to confront you. Right.
So for those of you who don't understand the wilderness thing, in the Bible, there were God's people who were free, and he had to take them through the wilderness, which was pretty much a 3-day journey.
Right.
But because they murmured and complained so much, they went around and around. They kept missing the entrance.
Right.
And so we have to be very careful that we don't put ourselves in a place of a wilderness experience.
Because we're the ones who can.
Exactly.
Right. Then we went on and we said cheering was the third part of conversation. So cheering first starts with yourself. You got to learn to talk to yourself.
Cheer yourself on.
You got to learn to talk yourself through things. You got to learn to talk yourself and say, I will accomplish. I will move from this level to that level. I will see this. I will that. You need to learn to cheer yourself.
I am this.
Yes,
I am that.
Yes. Get the negativity out the way. Those affirmations, write them down, say them daily. Whatever it is that you do, create that success experience. Talk to yourself, cheer yourself on. Yeah. Right.
They usually begin with I will, I am, I can.
Yes. It's because your body listens to your brain.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to talk to yourself so your brain tells your body the right thing to do. Right. And the next C that we talked about was center point.
Yeah.
Always know your center point. Think of an earthquake. Earthquake has an epicenter. They can tell where that earthquake originated.
Right.
And from that earthquake, there's concentric signs. Or you could think of circles. Or you can think of a pebble that you threw into a lake, a still lake of water. You throw that pebble in, boom. Then you see those concentric circles go out. Everything's coming from where that pebble hit the water, that center point. Everything in your leadership journey with yourself or your organizations has to come from that center point. If that center point changes, and this is a whole nother lesson on organizational structure, then the whole organization has to understand that is changing and prepare to change. If not, everything you do comes from that center point.
Right.
If it's not from that center point, then it's not what you do.
Right.
It's what someone else does.
Which is extremely important in leadership.
And then you network with people so they can do that.
So they can do that.
While you do this.
While you do what you do.
And you'll benefit one another. Right. So we could veer off right now and talk about local churches because that's one of the issues.
That there's certain churches who have who are beautiful in this one area. And then there's others who are good in these resources.
Don't understand their center point and networking.
And that's why it's so important because we need them all.
Yes.
We need them all.
We need them all. Yes.
We need them all.
So let me see what else we have here for you.
Is that our review?
Week four. Last week we talked about one good choice.
Making that one good
changes everything. And we talked about Rahab, right? And
if you guys don't know Rahab was known in the town as a prostitute, a person who was not as desired among the wealthy, but she was used, her body was used, and she used herself to gain or get whatever she wanted. But she became such a person that was used to do some great things by a choice that she made. A positive choice.
Yes. So from using Rahab as an example, we said, listen, a choice always occurs before action. So you've heard this in psychology over and all. You say there's a thought, then a feeling. Feeling triggers an action. Action that goes unchecked will be a habit. A habit that goes unchecked starts to define your character. Right? That is true. That is very, very true. Right? But the choice happens between the feeling and the action. Right? A choice is made somewhere in there. And we asked you the question about Rahab's choice. What was the one good choice she made? Was it that she hid the men? Someone said, she was looking out for herself, knowing that she did something for those folks, she would get something from it. Kim talked about, well, maybe it was just how she was trained because she was
so used to catering to men.
Right? And I'm of the school of thought right here that Rahab's good choice was that she believed in this God that those men represented. She heard about all that happened, wanted to be on the winning side, but her good choice was to believe in a God that she had no experience with, had never seen, just heard of. Right? So I think everyone was correct, but I think the actual choice that was honored, if you will, in this case, was the choice of faith, the choice of believing, right? So we wanted to give you 4 things. You need to understand that get in position. Get in position to hear what's going on, what's coming, right? This is how you make a good choice, the one good choice. Get in position so you can get all the information that you can get. And not have part of it, have all of it so you can think for yourself. Don't just watch one station or listen to one person or go to one. Get all the information, get in position so you can hear it all. The second thing is believe it. Whatever you hear, believe it. All of it. Even if it's one person saying something over here, one person saying something over there, believe it all, right? But listen to your spirit, man. Listen to God, right? So don't discount anything that you hear.
Okay, I like that better.
Don't discount anything that you hear. That there's always 3 sides to the story. Right? Take it all into consideration.
So believe their perspective.
Yes.
Okay.
Take it all into consideration as you begin to make a choice. This is what I'm saying, right? Right. And then the third step is recognize the opportunity that you have to commit. Right. So after you kind of done all the shaking out, sifted out, and you're going to make a choice, you're leaning a certain way, then you gotta see, when can I make that choice? Look for the hole. Look for the opportunity. Look for the person, look for the post, look for the conference, look for whatever it is, look for that thing so you can, have that opportunity. And the 4th step is act on it. Once you see that opportunity, act.
So look for the opportunity and then act on the opportunity
while
it strikes.
Yep.
While the iron is striking.
Yep. Despite how you feel, despite how it looks, because a lot of times opportunities are revolving doors, meaning that they open and close. Open and close. And when they open again, then that thing is no longer there. Think of an elevator, right? You get on the elevator, you open the door, you're in the lobby. You push the button, the door opens again. Now you're on the 8th floor. The lobby is not there any longer. So that's kind of how it kind of looks. So that was where we were as far as our review was concerned. We did tell you 3 more C's, and they were compassionate. You got to be compassionate.
Definitely
as a leader. Consider everything. Joshua understood Rahab. Those folks understood Rahab because they were in that position at one time as well. Unsurety, nowhere to really stay. You got to be confident in yourself. Remember, Joshua heard what God said, and then he told the people. He was confident. This is what it is. Confident in your competence to get the job done, and you got to be connected.
The other part to all that, I know some people are looking at this and like, well, I'm not really a leader, but you are, because you're a leader first of yourself.
Right.
You might not go and work outside the house, but you're a leader within your own right, in your own home, So you got to look at this and apply it to your position and where you are right now.
Exactly. So everyone's a leader.
Everyone's a leader.
In some area of giftedness, whether it's just you have a child, you don't have a child, a husband, a wife, you don't have a husband, wife. You have property, you have whatever it is, you are a leader somewhere. That's why we're teaching you these principles so you can be way more I'm going to say intentional and
Mhm.
productive in those things. I want to share with you a quick PowerPoint here because I want to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah, we need to talk about this a little bit and let them know. I just think this is some of the most important information
Mhm.
personally, because a lot of times we do things without knowing why we do them.
Yes, yes.
You know, we don't think about it. It's just what we've always seen. And so it's what we always do.
Right.
So to me, this part of the leadership series is important because it gives us the history behind the perception of leadership,
Yes.
why things were done. And it'll help for us to think, I don't even know why I did that. I just did it because it's what everyone else did. But you need to have a better understanding of why you do what you do.
Right.
So I think this is like one of the most important sections, honestly.
Right. So for this section, I think we were really, and I don't have one here. I thought I did. I didn't make one for you, but we wanted to title this section.
Whose idea?
Yeah. Who's thinking? Who's thinking?
thinking?
Who's thinking is
Who's
this
thinking?
anyway? So when we look at
Whose
leadership,
idea? Who's thinking?
when we think of leaders, we were in a room when we go back and forth and ask you a question. I would ask you who's a leader. In today's society, who would you call a leader? And a lot of you might say some of the politicians. You might say some of the larger preachers, or you might, say, I don't know,
your boss.
Your boss. Or you would mention someone who's in a position, right? And that's fine. That's okay because usually they are. I waver whether a politician is actually a leader or not, and that's a discussion for another time. Right? It's a discussion for another time. But that's who we would say. But we all, if I would ask you, so what does a leader do? How do you know someone's a leader? We would all create this hierarchy. You know, a leader is over something.
Yeah, that's what we think.
A leader is in front of a leader, and we would all create that, right? Well, where'd that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Whose thinking is that anyway? So let's look back in history. These are busy slides right here, but
a little more secular too, guys.
Yeah. So I this first slide here, let's go back and look at the Greeks. So the Greeks have two eras that they were, I'm going to say, in charge of the world, if you will. So there's what's called ancient Greek, and there's a more what they call modern Greek. So the ancient Greek was like 3200 BC. Modern Greek's around, was it 24 or 12 or something like that BC. So I'm talking more here on the modern Greek, right? So they believed in culture and in intelligence. So they were the ones who defined or refined what we call society, culture or civilized society. That came from the Greeks, right? So the arts and, writing and things like that, sculpting, all that came, the Greeks kind of began that actually in their ancient Greek time, right? So one of the things the Greeks did, a lot of might not know if you know Socrates and those kind of folks like that, the Greeks would go what do you call it? Invade places. And when they would invade a place, they would find the people that they thought were the smartest or the most cultured that fit into their definition of civilization.
Right.
And they would bring them back to Greece and they would make a space for them, for those people to operate in whatever that gift was that they were the smartest or best in, from the place where they went to.
All to benefit themselves.
Yes. They did that all to benefit exactly their piece. So that's kind of what Greek that's Greek leadership or Greek civilization was built on. So now the Greeks had this hierarchy that was based on physical attributes. There's a book called the Democrata, right? And it kind of lays it out. So like me, I would not have been an inherent leader. I've got a big old nose. So wide nose, dark skin, my hair. So they didn't really like folks from the African continent.
Right.
Continent. So they were considered not leaders, but they did invade Northern Africa, and a gentleman named Socrates, Socratic method, in the law was Socratic, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, all those things came from him. Well, they brought him back from Northern Africa. He had woolly hair, nose, his skin was brown, and they made a spot for him because they saw him being intelligent. What am I saying to you? The Greeks understood we have this definition of who can be a leader and who can't, But if you show some potential, if you have some, if we can gain from you,
there it is.
then we'll change your status.
If we can gain from you,
Right.
And that was the way that they ran things.
So they used you.
They used you,
Right. So that was kind of how the Greeks worked, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want to bore you too much. After the Greeks came the Egyptians.
Yeah.
Right. And just from the first rock, remember that there's two eras of Greeks. So after the first one came the Egyptians, right? And then you got the Egyptians, and they followed examples of the Greeks,
Right.
Meaning that they would conquer folks and imperialize. But the difference between the Egyptians and the Greeks was the Egyptians would conquer you and enslave you. They were a little more they were a little more aggressive, right?
Yeah.
And their system was set up. They had Pharaoh, who they thought was a god.
Right.
So their system was set up by bloodlines. It was static. There was you could not change your status in
Exactly.
Egypt. Whatever you were born, that's where you
what
stayed.
you were.
Right. And it was just laid that way.
Mhm.
Right.
But they still followed the example of the Greeks by bringing whatever to them would benefit
right.
them.
They assumed
it.
everything,
Yes.
right?
Took your position.
But the difference was, here's the big difference. The Greeks took the greatest things out of the place and let that place run itself the way it ran itself.
Not the
They
Egyptians.
just took the greatest things into their area of civilization to continue to build it, right? So they could rule over you. They figure if I take all your assets, you have no strength. I can rule over you that way, but I'm gonna let you do your thing your way.
Right.
Pharaoh was different. You're going to do things my way. You're going to serve my gods. You're going to dress the way I dress. You're going to do so. He
Dictatorship. Whole yes.
Right. So that government was a monarchy. It was hierarchy rule. Whatever Pharaoh said is what went. Right.
Give me yours and listen to me.
Yep. Then you had the Romans.
Got the Romans.
Right. So the Romans followed the examples of the Greeks as well.
Right.
And the Egyptians. But here's what the Romans did. They conquered folks.
Yeah.
Imperialized folks. Right. But here, what they did was they took people and they put them in those areas, called them governors.
Yeah.
And they ran that area kind of like a dual government. So you had your systems and rules in place. You can run your rules and your systems until I say I don't like that one. Then you have to change, to go to whatever's to my advantage. Right. So that's kind of how the Romans did. I mean, and you read that if you read the New Testament at all.
So each time it changed just a smidget, but they still followed the Greeks, then the Egyptians, and then they came in with their little thing.
Yep. They had the Romans had like a military police state kind of thing.
Control.
That's when you read the New Testament. It talks about the Roman guards.
Yes.
And who was the gentleman that Jesus stood in front of?
The Pilate.
Pontius Pilate. He was the governor that the Romans sent there to rule over that land. But the governor talked to the rulers of that land at that time, which were the Pharisees, the scribes, and Pharisees. That's why the scribes and Pharisees could talk to Pontius Pilate, because Pontius Pilate was the governor over the land, because that's who Romans sent. The Romans sent, but the Romans didn't want to get into all the little fine-tooth stuff,
because they never wanted to be wrong.
Right.
Never wanted to be found wrong. So they put it on the person who was in position to do what they said.
Right.
So it looked like it was their fault.
Exactly.
They were really interested.
Exactly. So the Roman, they set the decrees and the ordinance, the laws in the land. They ruled and judged over the big things, and the emperor gave the orders.
Right.
The emperor was never in that place.
Right.
Didn't even know anything about that place. Right. So that's kind of the three areas of government we have. So I wanted to kind of give you a comparison slide here for you. So if you look at the Greeks here, like I said to you, they leadership or hierarchy was inherently defined, right, by skin color, nationality, or classism, but it was not fixed. If you could show that you had some value,
ability
that would impact and help that region, they would move your status. If you did not, then you would not. So it was about what you could do for me lately.
It is.
Right. Then you got the Egyptians. Your status was fixed. Because they believed Pharaoh was a demigod, one of the gods. So the rulership was by bloodline. It was positional. So you see some remnants of that in our government. There are large names that have been in government in here in the U.S. for years, for generations. I won't mention any names, but they're senators, they're congressmen, they're governors. There's families, So I mean, some of that is still kind of in play. In Egypt, there was a definite difference in classes.
Exactly.
It was about dollars. It was about money and bloodline. Who did Pharaoh like?
Yeah.
If he didn't like you, he could cut you off tomorrow.
Yeah. So think about it. Even with was it Joshua, or who was the one that was able to tell them that there's going to be 7 years of famine and 7 years of this? Joseph. Because Joseph did something that benefited him, then he gets position.
Yes. Change your status.
Yeah. Change your status
overnight
because of what in seconds. Okay. The decree. Here's the signet ring. Boom. This is what's going to happen here.
Right. And again, the Romans, they had an emperor. They elected folks, and appointed folks.
More of a democracy.
Yeah, in those local areas, not over the emperor. So they had what they called it aristocrats.
Yeah,
they called them, and they kind of put them in place. They were like a board, if you will, and they informed or had some say so in what the emperor did. Very similar to what you see in our.
We'll talk more about.
But that emperor made that final decision.
Yeah.
But hierarchy was based on social position.
Yeah.
Based on how much popularity you had.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
how
we
much
see today.
How much land you own. What you could do. How your influence in the place, and that was based on dollars.
Yeah.
That was based on dollars. Right. So this is how leadership has been defined worldwide.
And I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, I can connect this to social media.
Yes.
How many numbers you have.
Exactly.
How many followers you have. How many people you influence.
Exactly.
It's all right there.
Exactly.
It's all right there.
Exactly.
So who's thinking is it anyway? That's the question.
So the overall lessons as far as historical leadership is that, history, leadership has been established by hierarchy. Separation of classes. Someone who is a leader has more influence, ability, or dollars, and that's how they've been called leaders.
Yeah.
Throughout history, influence, ability, or dollars.
Money.
That's what has defined leadership. Not call, not purpose, not gift, none of that. Influence, leadership, or dollars. That's how mankind has done it, right? They've always been able to create some kind of culturally accepted message, if you will.
Yeah.
So throughout each of those eras that I told you about, they defined what leadership, whatever it was, and everyone accepted it.
Right.
Everyone accepted it. For some reason, somehow they were able to, and that is the gift of leadership, to influence others.
That's what it
is. So they accepted it, and everyone played their position, got in their lane. That's important.
Yeah.
Everyone played their position and got in their lane. Do we still see that happening?
Yeah.
Right. Is it happening in you? And then the third point that we have is those who lead historically will somehow seem to be supreme over others.
Yeah. My God.
And that supremacy came from influence or popularity, dollars.
Money.
Yes, it came
even
from those
location
things.
or where you were.
Right. So economics, popularity, bloodline. So those are some. That's kind of how leadership has been defined throughout history. And I think if you look now, you'll see some parallelisms.
Definitely.
Now, I don't have time and won't do that. So I think I've kind of already generalized leadership as far as degrees are concerned. So the reason why we wanted to show you this was really to ask you, or to say to ask you, whose thinking is this anyway?
Yeah.
The way we see leadership, and I think,
my God,
and the way we said it to you, I put it to you. If you're honest, you'll probably say, yeah. You probably agree with some of those things. Why? Because that's how we've been conditioned.
That's the way we've
That's
been
all
conditioned.
we know.
Yeah.
Right. So whose thinking is it? It was never God's thinking.
Never.
That was mankind. That's how we set up our organizational structures.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with the organizational structures. We need them, right? But you, as a kingdom citizen, your why, your center point, we talked about the center point, the ripple, effect has to be not from influence or money or position
or classism.
No, classism. It has
Yeah.
to be from your why.
Mhm.
It has to be from the seeds that you are already formed with when God told you to be fruitful.
Mhm.
You cannot be fruitful without first being seedful.
Mhm.
You are full of seeds.
Yeah.
Identify those seeds, develop them, get yourself in position
Yeah.
so you can produce the fruit.
Mhm.
The rest is external leadership.
Mhm.
And then that whole hierarchical system, whatever we have in place,
Mm.
you'll find ways to navigate and negotiate and network with that then.
So being in the world, but not necessarily of
the
it,
world.
using kingdom principles to be the leader that God created you to be.
Yes.
And using the way he ordained it, he organized it, and not necessarily seeing yourself as copying the exact same things that the Greeks or the Egyptians or the Romans did, but whatever it is that where you live, you still have to obey the laws of the land.
Right.
But you definitely have to follow the principles that God has lined up for you to be a kingdom leader.
Yes.
So that you're making sure that you're not over people. Newton's been talking about that for the past couple of weeks. God has given us your area of giftedness, but even you're ordained to do this, but not ordained to be over people. Yeah. He never did that.
Yeah.
So
dominion over all the things.
That's it. Dominion over things, not people.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to share this with you. I know it's kind of an abstract thinking,
but it's the way to think.
A little different. But I think that these are the principles that we don't necessarily discuss.
Yeah.
Especially in our churches, because our churches are very positional.
And follow, honestly, a lot of, not all, but a lot follow that same Egyptian.
That's why I'm showing it to
Greek,
you.
Yeah, and I know that's why. Because we follow that same thing. Based upon who you are will determine what you're allowed to do in church, or what they, people permit you to do. Right. Whether or not your family's name is acknowledged, because based upon the amount of money you give. This here is definitely not kingdom thinking.
Right. And the reason why we want to pull that out is two reasons. One, because we want you to recognize the systems that may be broken or not efficient.
Yes.
But we also want you to recognize that that's not how God designed it for you.
How he designed it
so
for you.
You have to make the choice to develop your seed, to make it fruitful. So your purpose is to make your seed fruitful, and your purpose your seed purposeful and your fruit, you know what I'm talking about, right? Seedful, right. You have to do that despite the system that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
Because you're a leader over you first.
Right.
All right. I'm rambling on. I'm over my time. I want to do this really quickly before I'm just going to proclaim something over your life. If that's okay with you, we go ahead and decree and declare. Even now, God, release the reign of leadership in folks' lives. Help us to understand.
Yes, Father.
Understand the why behind the what that we're doing, God. Help us to see and identify the different hierarchical structures and the things that are going on in the organizations in which we belong to, and even our households and things within ourselves that we run, God, so that we can be more kingdom-based in our thinking. So that we're more seedful, more fruitful, so that we're more impactful and purposeful to accomplish what you have put us here to accomplish. Let us see, let us know, so we can do differently. I decree and I declare that rain is falling on your life right now. I decree and I declare that is permeating the dendrites of your mind, and that you're going to be thinking about these things and be more purposeful and intentful in how you set things up in your leadership journey.
And what you follow.
Oh, great.
And what you follow, definitely.
So we have a custom here before I get out the way. We have a custom. I want you to do something. Remind yourself of this right here. Go ahead and say it out loud to yourself. Put it in the chat, whatever you want to do it, wherever you are. Go ahead and say, I am good ground. I'm about to break this ground up in the outside yard today, either today or tomorrow. But I am good ground. I've already been out there touching the ground and smelling it. I can smell it. It's ready, right?
Soil.
You are ready. You're good ground, and everything grows there. Everything. So I want you to be confident in your competence to do a thing. And I'm going to go ahead and get out your way. But remember,
go ahead.
You're going to do the launch?
You can say it because I do want to. Well, yeah, I'll say it. Just he was excited to say this. To remember that we are not launching at you. We are launching with you. But I wanted to share one last thing. Philippians 4:8. I just feel like this is so purposeful for this because we're talking about who's thinking anyway. Well, guess what? You need to start thinking. And what should you be thinking about? The scripture says, finally, brothers and sisters, think on whatever's true. Think on whatever's noble. Yes. Think on whatever's right. Think on whatever's pure. Think on whatever is lovely. Think on whatever is admirable. And think on anything that's excellent or praiseworthy. Think about such things. This is who should be thinking. You thinking about what God is saying in his word. Thinking on admirable, true, honest, pure things. That's what you should be thinking. So again, this is Kim and Newt from Launch. Stay tuned because we do have something for your kiddos just to let them know about the leader that is inside of them and to let them know that they have purpose in their life.
We got a few shout outs.
Oh, we got some shout outs.
Shout out to Llewellyn Coleman. Thank you for tuning in. Hey. Vonica Sharpie Dennison.
Oh, that's my cousin, Benicia.
Selena Washington. Thank you for popping in. My man Shango, peace and love, family. Yes. Pamela Jones, thank you for coming in. I think I see a few more.
Jeremiah.
Sister Cheryl, all the way from San Diego. Jeremiah Hunter, what's going on, my brother? You're supposed to call me. We're supposed to get together, right? Right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I don't know if you have any more.
Last but not least, if you are looking for something to teach your little ones, I have created a month's worth of Sunday school lessons with activities for all ages. Please check them out. You can inbox me or you can go onto our website, which is newedproducts.net, or you can go onto Amazon and check it out. It's a great activity book with lessons to teach your kiddos. If you're like, I'm not sure how to teach them, what to teach them, I got you covered. Check it out. And stay tuned. As I said, are you done, Dave?
I'm good.
Okay, stay tuned because we have the show, a little mini show for your kiddos, just explaining the importance of being a leader and the purpose that God has placed in them. All right, we'll see you next week. We love you.
Hey guys, I'm Super J, and today it's Saturday. Launch International Kids on Saturday. That's right, and I'm Super Zach. Well, we are here for Launch 360 Ministries Kid International, that is. That's right, Launch 360 International Ministries for kids. All kids, one big world and one great big God. Here we are growing, learning, and becoming who we're called to be every day.
Children are growing, so start them off the way they should go. And even when they're old, they will not turn from it. Proverbs 22:6. They're learning, so fathers, don't exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Ephesians 6:4. And they're becoming, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Romans 8:19.
All kids, one big world and one great big God. So listen to this important message from Zion the Lion. He's going to teach you about the omnipotent God and how we've got power too. Did you know that you were God's good creation? Good, G-O-O-D, that's right, God's outstanding, omnipotent design. He waited until a special day and pulled all of the greatness out of himself and placed it in you. That's why you're his good design. God also gave you special skills, and those special skills can only be fulfilled by you. You have your set of special skills. I have my set of special skills. Your friends have their set of special skills. And all of those skills added together make what God is. Omnipotent. Omnipotent broken down means all potent or all powerful, meaning you have unlimited power. and able to do anything. That's what God is. He is all powerful. He has unlimited power and is able to do anything. But what does potential mean for us? Potential is a power that can do something, and it may not have come to existence just yet, but it can do all things. So it's an untapped strength that's hidden deep down inside of you. And God wants us to maximize that potential that He has given us by taking each step daily. We were created to do His work and fulfill His purpose here on earth. So last but not least, look at Earth like a canvas and use all of that power that God has given you to create. Okay, now I get it. Thanks, Zion. Just like the scripture, Ephesians 3:20. Now unto Him, God that is, who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power, there's that word power, that's working in us. I feel very powerful today, and it's time for me to put my hands to the work. How about you, boys and girls? Hey, that was pretty awesome, Zion. Thanks so much. That was a great message about potential. Now I understand why I have all these great ideas inside of me. That's because God has given me the potential to fulfill them. So all I have to do is get myself busy and get moving. As a young lion, I understand this completely. The older I get, the stronger I get. And that's the same thing with you. The more you practice, the more you work towards it, and the more you grow, the stronger you get. And you can use that potent power that's deep down inside of you. Wow, with all of that information, we have more. There's a great video that I want you to watch from Share Faith Kids. Keep in mind, it's about creation. See if you can count the days when God created. And Launch Ministries 360 International Kids does not own the rights to this video.
Creation. God made you, and God made me. He made everyone and everything we see. He made the earth and He made the heavens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On day number 1, God made light. He made the day and He made the night. On day number 2, God made the sky. It's big and blue and way up high. On day number 3, God made the sea. He made the land, every plant and tree. On day number 4, God made the moon and stars. He put the sun in the sky super duper far. On day number 5, God made birds and fish, dolphins and whales and things that go squish. On day number 6, God made animals and bugs, foxes and cubs, all for us to hug. On day number 6, God also made man. Hi! He said it was good and part of His plan. On day number 7, God stopped to rest. He saw what He'd made. It was His best.
Hey, He created us on day 6. Wow, He used all that potential in 6 days, and on the 7th day He rested. Look at that. And if He can create us with all that potential in that short amount of time, imagine what we can do with all the years of our lives. So friends, don't forget this week, use your potential. Thanks again for watching our channel. And we want you to follow us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe. See you here next week for Launch 360 Ministries, Kids International Ministries, that is. Oh, and don't forget to stop by Amazon and get some of Ami's World books. The newest book is When Cheerleaders Go in Strength. Check them out. You'll love them all.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and fire!